This is the oldest computer I have owned since the Tandy 1000EX we had when I was very small. My math teacher gave me this computer. This is an Epson Apex Plus. This computer was made in 1988. My math teacher bought this computer in 1989 or 1990, and it served him until 1997 when he retired it. And sometime between then and the mid-2000s, he had brought it to school and brought it to his classroom, and he hooked it up in his classroom, and anyone who wanted to use it could use it. But of course, no one ever did. And when I started high school in, I guess it was 2008, I discovered this computer, and he invited me to turn it on, and when it booted up, it booted into some sort of menu system. So I never got any farther than that because everything was password protected. But then, I guess it would have been last year, all of a sudden it just wouldn't boot anymore, and that was the end of it. And then a few months ago, I guess this June, so a couple of months ago, he told me that if I wanted to take this thing home, I could, because otherwise he was just going to throw it in the dumpster. So I took this home. It had a monitor and a printer with it, but I didn't take that. I just took the computer and the keyboard. Anyhow, this computer has a Fujitsu MLB 8088 processor that can run at either 5 or 10 megahertz. It's user switchable on the fly using a keyboard combination. It has 640 kilobytes of RAM, and it has a 20 megabyte MFM hard drive. It has a 360K 5¼ inch floppy drive and a 720K 3½ inch floppy drive. And that button, or that light, that's a power light, but it's orange when you're running at 5 megahertz and green when you're running at 10 megahertz. Around the back you have the power supply fan and the power connector. You have all the expansion slots, one of which is occupied by a video card. And you have a parallel port. And note this first one here, that's a DB25 serial port. And then you have a parallel port. Open it up here, you have the drive caddy. This whole caddy can be unscrewed so you can take all the floppy drives out at once. Both floppy drives are connected by one cable that has a master and slave, and that plugs in right there. Here's the power supply. It's an 80 watt power supply, 88 watts I think, so I guess this would be the smallest power supply I've ever seen in a computer. 5 8-bit ISA slots, one of which is occupied by a Trident TVGA 8900CL VGA video card. I got this video card out of the back room of the computer lab. This computer originally had, and I have it over here, CGA video. This is the original CGA video card that the computer had, and it had a color CGA monitor. Obviously, you know, who wants CGA video when you can have VGA video? And it's very convenient that we had a Trident 8900 video card, because it's one of the only video cards ever made that will work in an 8-bit ISA slot, because this is a 16-bit ISA card. And if you look, it looks like an 8-bit card because the 16-bit extender isn't here, but my partner in electronic crime also happens to be a budding carpenter, because that's what his father is, so he took the card down to the shop and cut the 16-bit extender off it so I could fit it in this slot without the extender hitting the BIOS thing, because the card wouldn't fit in otherwise. So yeah, this thing has VGA video now, which is really nice because I can use it with a standard monitor. The hard drive was in this slot. You might be asking, where is the hard drive? Well, hold on just a sec. This is a full-length ISA card. This is the hard drive. It's a Kyocera model KC20B MFM hard drive, 20 megabytes. And this is a Western Digital MFM controller. And the whole card slides right into a slot. And you can see why they call them full-length ISA cards. The full length of the computer chassis. Now this hard drive is a problem. And it has two problems actually, and one of them is the reason this thing quit booting. For some reason, when you first turn the computer on, the hard drive spins up slowly, and then it spins back down. But after the computer's been running a while, you turn it off and turn it back on, then the hard drive spins up to full speed and it works. But I can't use this hard drive because this hard drive has a second problem. A problem that would make one think it's a memory problem, but whenever I use the floppy drive, that problem never arises. But whenever I write to the hard drive, I get a memory parity error in DOS. But if I take the hard drive out and use it with just the floppy drives, this thing works absolutely perfect. So I've just assumed that the hard drive is bad. Too bad. Other things we have in here, we have a full range speaker. Even though this thing's only capable of producing the standard PC beats, I have it unplugged just for less annoyance on my part. There's the, not good light here, there's the processor, Fujitsu MLB 8088-1. And then under the floppy drive and power supply caddy is where you can put the memory. This thing has as much memory as it can take, 640 kilobytes. It originally came with 512 kilobytes. The 3.5-inch floppy drive is optional as well. This thing would have originally came with two 5.25-inch floppy drives, and it wouldn't have come with a hard drive. So I'm going to assume my math teacher put the floppy drive in, put the hard drive in, and upgraded the memory. And this computer alone would have been something like $1,500 back in the day, and the hard drive was probably $500 or $600. So you put a lot of money into this. The 128 kilobytes of RAM probably would have been a couple $100 too. So, there's that, and now we'll boot it up. I just have to get the floppies. Alright, I have four 3.5-inch floppy disks here. These are 1.4 megabyte disks that I've formatted to 720K using the Desk Pro. That's why I have Windows 98. To my knowledge, Windows 98 is the last version of Windows that had good support for formatting and using 720K floppy disks. So, we have MS-DOS 5 Startup and the MS-DOS Shell, MS-DOS 5 Utilities, MS-DOS 5 Basic Edit and Help, and this disk has Windows 2.03. So we're going to turn it on here. Counting up the RAM. It does it twice for some reason or another. And then you hear, oh no, you won't hear it beep. I have the speaker unplugged. And it just checked the floppy drives and it should say error because there's no disk. Boot disk failure. Type any key to retry. We're going to stick in our startup disk and press enter on the XT keyboard. And now it's booting. The floppy drives are very quiet. They're obviously built better than today's floppy drives. There we go. I don't know why. I guess I should add a space in between. I added this meshes there. Microsoft MS-DOS 5.0, copyright 1984-1991, Microsoft Corporation. No PC should be without it. And if you don't know where that came from, see the link in the video description. I'll say that. And we're at the A prompt, so do a version command here, MS-DOS version 5.0, the last version that supported a full install on floppy disks. Do a directory here. Okay, we'll start the MS-DOS shell first by typing DOS shell, enter. MS-DOS 5.0 MS-DOS shell. Copyright Microsoft Corporation 1991, all rights reserved. There you go. And you can see how slow it takes to draw menus at 5 megahertz. Say I bring up the options menu. Oops, whoops, I didn't mean to do that. Cancel. You can see how long it takes to draw the screen. And you can see how slow it is. So let's exit. Let's boot up Windows. And we're back at the A prompt. And we'll type W-I-N, win, and press enter. Microsoft Windows version 2.03. The last version that supported an installation on floppy disks. And here's where I think Microsoft cheated users out on this. In the Windows installation program, it didn't say that if you install it on a floppy, it's not going to include any programs. Those are the Windows files. Those are all the Windows files if you install on a floppy. And if you installed it on a hard drive, it would give you all the programs, Control Panel, Notepad, Paint, etc. But it didn't say if I installed it on a floppy I'd get Jack. You'd think that it would put it on multiple floppies in that case, but anyhow. So we can't open any programs except the MS-DOS Executive. We can go into the File menu here. And About MS-DOS Executive. Microsoft Windows MS-DOS Executive version 2.03, copyright 1987, disk space free, 141 kilobytes, memory free, almost 400 kilobytes. Enter. Let's go into the special menu here, end session. This thing came with 41 5¼ inch floppy disks, all in these cases. So there's that. Boy, we're going on an hour and 10 minutes for this video series now. God. So there's the Epson. Just take out the floppy and turn it off. And that's it for all the computers. That's all the computers that are here now. So now for some personal updates. Well, there's nothing much to say really. I'm 8 or 9 months older since you last saw me. I'm 45 pounds lighter. For the majority of July, I worked at a local department store, and that's the button I wore because for some reason they wouldn't give me a name tag, even though they gave all the other new employees they hired name tags. So I worked there for 3.5 weeks, made $1,200. That's pretty good. And other than that, there's not much to say. Like I said, I had what is without a doubt the best class in school I ever had this past year, which was Cisco's IT Essentials. And there was 6 or 7 of us in that class. Although one of us dropped out before too long. But yeah, anyway, I passed the course with flying colors. I made a 96 on the exam, and I finished the class with like a 94 or 95. I even made a couple of Ethernet cables, one of which I'm currently using for the Travel Mate. And yeah, so I guess all that's left to explain is what's going to happen with the Maritime Man. Well, right now, I shouldn't say right now, I should just say I just don't have the time to work on it. Since I've quit YouTube, I've had a lot more free time to do other stuff I want to do. And I really don't want to change that. What I am working on is CPQ 5360. You guys know that I found a bunch of VHS tapes with old commercials on them. So I'm going to be going to all them and putting the commercials on them to a DVD and then eventually to YouTube. So that's about it. As always, follow me on Twitter at the Maritime Man, where I post lots of computer stuff and sometimes other interesting anecdotes. And that's pretty much it. So thanks for watching.